Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Broski Doodles podcast. As always, your host, Kiko Flo, Kiko Cervantes, en la casa, in the middle. Chilling with you today to make your day a bit better, a bit more filled with laughter, or maybe just comforting feeling that you're smarter than the guy you're looking at this moment. Let's start off with the really needy stuff. Steve Wozniak, the true creator of Apple, came out recently saying that we need to get off Facebook right away. He's worried about the amount of privacy that we're giving to Facebook and other platforms. He's specifically worried about Facebook, which is the same people that own Instagram. So they pretty much own a big chunk of it all. On the other side, you have Google with YouTube, and then TikTok with the Chinese, right? But he's worried about Facebook because of the amount of data that they're able to take from us that is based on our privacy, right? They're able to know so many things about us, even where we go, so that they could sell advertisement very accurately. On one side of the coin, it does seem like it's more efficient if you as a business can sell your product to a specific group of people, not just women or not just men under 30, but men under 30 that like to play this specific game that uses a specific controller, and I can sell it to them. So as a seller and as a consumer, it becomes interesting. It really does. But I guess Wozniak's argument here is like, okay, let's get to the point where we're giving value to who deserves it and it's fair for everybody. So he says he won't use Facebook until he's able to pay Facebook to use Facebook and they not take his information, right? So keep in mind that all these platforms work because we agree to give them our data. There's a famous quote, I think they even used it on the Social Dilemma Netflix documentary that they had, but it's like, if the product that you're using is free, then you are the product. And that's the case with social media, right? We can use it for free, but that means that the company knows all of our moves, they know all of our interests, so they know how to sell us things more accurately and more effective. And Wozniak pretty much just wants to make people aware that this is an issue and that he eventually wants to be able to pay companies to use their services such as Facebook, because Facebook, it adds value to people's life, in the way that they interact with people. But maybe, let's say you want to use Facebook, but you don't want them to have your data. You can pay like $10 a month, maybe. I don't know how it would be. But for example, you pay $10 a month, and then you don't have to, on one end, see any ads, but also they won't sell your information to other companies, right? So I also started thinking, would there really be enough people wanting to pay to have Facebook as a paid service, and rather than just give away their privacy? I don't know, with how the new generation is, where they don't really value privacy as the older generations do. It is a bit of a topic to discuss, but I found it to be interesting. There was another great important news that happened, and it's that the McRib is coming back, and well, at this time, if you're watching this, the McRib is back in McDonald's in the US. And I have here an article which talks about the many economic conspiracy theories about the comeback of the McRib, and I see here that the first time that the McRib came back was on 2012, right? So it's been 8 years since they have been in the menu. And if you're a fan of this, it's like a McNugget but made with pork instead. You might be wondering, why are they coming back? So there's different theories as to why it is that the McRib is making a comeback at this moment. One of the reasons that they say this could happen is that there is a time in the year when pork is cheaper, and this also happens when you look at it through a longer period of time. There's always a section in time where pork has been cheaper, and coincidentally, whenever McDonald's brings the McRib back, is usually when there is this, lower price available. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's one of the ones. Another theory is that it is a loss leader, and what that means is whenever there's a product that costs businesses more to make than customers pay for it. So you're pretty much making a product at a loss, right? So if it costs you $3.50 to make, you sell it for $3.40. You're losing 10 cents on it. You're not making any money. You might wonder, well, why is it even logical to sell this? Well, there is a reason behind this, and that reason is that for certain items, the companies choose to take this loss in hopes that they will lure customers to buy profitable products that re-up the loss, right? And recoup that loss. So, for example, like an example of this would be like cheap printers that require expensive cartridges of ink, So, the McRib could be nothing more than a barbecue-based marketing tactic to get customers through the golden arch. So, that's a reason for it too. I don't know if the case is that the McRib, if it was sold at the price that it could make them money, then people wouldn't really buy it. So, and this is where the third conspiracy comes, and it's that the McRib isn't popular enough to be a full-time member of the menu. So, like, even though when the McRib comes out, everybody goes crazy over it, they say that the first few weeks they sell like 200 every day, but then towards the end they sell less than 50 per day. And then it just becomes an item that is not really rotate. It doesn't rotate well, So that could be. But the fact of the matter is that the McRib is back at this moment. And if you're a fan of this mystery meat ensemble, I recommend you go try it right away, because I don't think it's going to be lasting too long. But hey, who the fuck knows? Another news for all those people that used to play GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. This is going to be a nostalgic experience. There is a telescope. It's called the Arecibo telescope, which I would assume it has to do with the location it's in, or maybe another reason. But it's called the Arecibo telescope. This telescope is in Puerto Rico. So for people that don't know, if there was a video game called GoldenEye, which is 007 theme video game, which was a massive hit when the Nintendo 64 was around in the 90s, and there was this game GoldenEye that had a mission. If I'm not mistaken, maybe the final mission was in this telescope, and so it brings nostalgic moments and feelings to many people. But one curious thing is that on the game, I believe they say that the telescope was in Cuba, but that's not the case. It's in Puerto Rico. Even though all Latinos, I know we all look the same, there are some differences. It's not all just rice and beans. Okay. Don't be a little bit sensitive to how we could be offended and feel like we're less than if you see us all with the same lens. But yeah, pretty much, here I'm showing some aerial views of how it looks now. So there were some cables that ran through these 3 posts, and they used this massive plate at the bottom to bounce signals and get, images. Here you can see there's a picture of how it looks the day after it sort of collapsed, and a day before where it was still holding. I don't know the reasons as to why this was let to go to shit so badly, because obviously the lack of maintenance means that there was a lack of funding for the program in general. So, I don't know what it was, but it says here that this collapse was not unexpected. Following two cable breaks in August and November, experts determined that the radio telescope was so structurally unsound that it had to be decommissioned. On November 19, the National Science Foundation, which owned the telescope, tasked engineers with deconstructing it. That was supposed to take about 5 or 6 weeks, but the iconic telescope couldn't last that long. Wow. So yeah, I mean, there's probably some mismanagement there. If you want to, you can check the video. Go online and just check Arecibo telescope, breakdown or something. Write something like that. Reason why I'm not showing it here is because anything I show, YouTube sort of doesn't necessarily demonetize it because I'm not monetized, but it copyright links it. It doesn't make a claim, but it sort of lets you know that, like, oh, the shit that you're using here is copyrighted by someone. So, fuck it. I just don't want to be linked to no other motherfuckers. In theory, you should be able to talk about things and give your opinion and criticism towards it and not have this issue about fucking, copyrights or whatever. But yeah, but I hope that with images it's not an issue. Here you can see how it looked in 2012, which already looked pretty fucked. So it looked like this shit just had been let, to rot, which is pretty sad because, like I said, I grew up playing this video game and it seemed like, this could be like a cool thing, Some people, the director of the Planetary Habitability Laboratory at the University of Puerto Rico, he says that when he learned of the news, he was totally devastated. He had been going to the observatory since he was 10 years old, and he worked with it for the past decade. So, I would assume that this had to do with the loss of funding. I think it's crazy how we're able to create these things that can see to space. And I do know that they're building one at the moment in China, or if they haven't already built it, which is gonna be really, really like in depth as to how far it can go into the space. So I think that this is great news for all of us. And yeah. And yeah. All right. On other news, I wanted to speak about mac and cheese. I think mac and cheese is an amazing invention, and it's such a simple thing, when you think of mac and cheese, but it has so much complexity and depth that I really wanted to touch on this subject with a serious note. I think we always joke around in this podcast. We're always talking about funny shit. We're always, just trolling things like, just nothing really productive to society or ourselves, If anything, we're just becoming dumber every episode. But I wanted to talk about something serious. And notice that I'm being serious because I'm having a little bit of Spanish wine. So notice the seriousness in me. Serious. Mac and cheese, bro. What a culinary Pandora's box, right? I mean, not every mac and cheese is the same, right? It ain't. It's special. It has to be creamy enough so that it coats the pasta shells ever so splendidly, but not so creamy that it takes over the texture of the whole dish, right? There's like this perfect balance between the gooiness of the concoction, but also the sturdiness of the pasta as it enters your esophagus. There's this aroma that comes from the cheddar, the Gouda, and the different mixes of cheese. And notice the accent when I say the cheese is to add a little bit of emphasis into what the fuck I'm saying, right? I'm talking about the mixture between the cultures. Well, not really, just American trailer trash, but mac and cheese. And I gotta say, I'm not being paid for this, but if you're hearing this and you want to pay for it, we can talk. My numbers aren't too high at this stage. But I do gotta admit who's the king at this moment. And when it comes to commercial mac and cheese, it's been years that I've searched for something better and I cannot find anything better than Velveeta. And I'm actually starting to use, whenever I want to talk about something being fire, about something being fucking good, about something being impressive, about something being great, I'm going to start saying Velveeta, Like, yo, how was that movie, bro? That shit was Velveeta. You know what I mean? That shit was fire. Fucking Tom Cruise in space, that shit was fire. Right, Velveeta. And I'm not hating on Kraft mac and cheese, but that powder shit, when I was growing up and kids were doing drugs, I was never about that powder shit. You feel me? I was never about that powder. But that Velveeta, again, not knocking on Kraft mac and cheese. That box is classic. But that's more like, well, if you ain't got that Velveeta money, I could do some Kraft, If you put enough love to it, add the right amount of milk, and have your own little secrets, Kraft mac and cheese can be fucking amazing. You gotta eat it right then. It won't last too long. Once it hardens, but you can eat it at the moment. I ain't hating. It's cheaper. You can get a box of 48 for the Lolo. I get that. But if you are at a moment in your life where you're growing and you feel like you deserve more, like, fuck, I should invest a bit more in me, right? In player number one, Velveeta. And I want to clarify, I'm not being paid for this. I should. But it's that fire. I myself been trying to make homemade mac and cheese for a minute, failing every time. My aunt, I remember in Thanksgiving, she still does, makes the firest mac and cheese, right? I mean, my aunt's Thanksgiving mac and cheese grabs Velveeta mac and cheese, puts it in all fours, and double penetrates it with that double stuffed, wear-on dildo, right? Now, can I have my aunt's mac and cheese any day like Velveeta? No. So there's an accessibility issue, not a sex issue. Accessibility issue. Should I talk to my aunt about making this mac and cheese something industrial? Should I talk to my cousin, maybe get some fucking stakes in this company and make this shit a family thing? Run the fucking mill, if you wills? Maybe. Maybe. But I'm just letting you know, this is a fucking classic mac and cheese. Does she then bake it and put some fucking, bread, crumble bread in the top so that it gives it a little crust? A little crust? Huh? Yeah. And then does she pair that? Does she pair that with some garlic bread that she magically does with this recipe that she hasn't shared to anyone? And then my cousins arbitrarily name that the Kiko bread, and that becomes the fieriest shit that motherfuckers eat in that hood? Yes. And when you mix the mac and cheese and the Kiko bread and the butteriness of the bread and the meltiness and gooiness of the cheese enter your arteries and block it and make it so that night when you drink, you get a higher boost? Yes. In the morning when you wake up, do you go doubles on that mac and cheese and it still fucking tastes creamy? And then with the Kiko bread, you put it in the oven and it still fucking tastes crunchy and fucking amazing and buttery, and you mix it all in and put it in with a couple beers and then go play basketball to try to burn it all down, but not really? Yes. Have I been able to duplicate that fucking creaminess in the mac and cheese, or even the Kiko bread, which is just bread with garlic but still has this magic that I cannot reproduce? No, I have not. I'm still searching for a way to be able to make this shit at a high grade level. Do I feel frustrated that I cannot make mac and cheese to the level that I should at this stage of my life? Yes, disappointed. Have I addressed that disappointed in a way so that I can make a plan to progress little by little in my mac and cheese making abilities? Yes, also. Have I achieved the goals that I have put in my plan to make progress in the mac and cheese ability building program? No. Why? Because I'm a fucking lazy fuck. Do I want to eat the mac and cheese? Yes. Do you want to put work in it so that you can become better at the abilities of making mac and cheese for you and the people that love you? No. Apparently no. Do you have dysfunctions and chemical disbalances in your brain that make you talk in a certain way that make people think like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Yes. Is the shit wrong in the cables that connect your brain to your body that make you fucking talk like a lunatic, but at the same time make sense and make you feel like, should I listen to this guy? Maybe not, because he's gonna make me crazy, but at the same time he's entertaining. Yes. Do I want your opinion on how to make the best mac and cheese and your recipes on how to improve on my mac and cheese abilities for me and the loved ones and everybody around me? I don't know. Maybe. Are you good with the mac and cheese? Huh? I want you to be as passionate as I am when I'm talking about mac and cheese, right? Because I've tried it many times and I failed. You know what sucks? When you fucking spent all this money trying to get all this gooey amount of cheeses, different mixes, you know, throwing some Spanish, some fucking Dutch cheese in there just to, you know, to make it fucking bougie, right? Mix it all in, blend it. You know, right? You make the you put the little fucking flour with the milk, with the butter. You make the base and then you try to add the cheese and then the fucking mac and cheese just don't taste right. But you feel like, shit, man, I should eat this shit. I'm not going to throw this away. I'm not at a point in my life where I can throw food away. Not only for the monetary reasons, but also for the moral ones. Like, I still feel like I'm connected to the nature. I don't have enough money to fucking not give a fuck about nature. Have I failed many times making mac and cheese? Yes. Am I going to keep on failing? Yes. Until I find the fucking perfect recipe? Yes. Do I have the balls in me to ask my aunt to give me the recipe without her grabbing a sharp knife and cutting my throat in front of my cousins? No. Am I scared? Yes. Am I intimidated by the mac and cheese abilities that she has acquired through the years? And then consequentially having a bread named after me because of the fireness of it, but me not really having to do anything with it, and me feeling really fearful of asking her of that recipe because I feel that she will feel that I'm not worthy of it, and then our relationship will be fractured because of it. Yes. Should my mom be worried about the mental state that her son is in? Most likely. Should my parents, my dad, you know, me being his only son, be super proud of who the fuck I am and what I've achieved in my life? Not really, not much achieved. Should they be worried about the routes that I might take in my life? Yeah, I'm a bit cuckoo. I'm crazy. Not really, I'm pretty chill. I just do Netflix and do a little wine. May I? May I? Salud. Mac and cheese. Fucking mac and cheese. Will my aunt feel that I'm worthy of knowing the perfect recipe for mac and cheese, or would you feel that I need to go into an adventure that lasts many years, and maybe when I'm older I'll be able to host my own Thanksgiving parties after I have acquired the mac and cheese abilities that could make me and the loved ones appreciate who I am based on the gooiness that's entering their mouth into the esophagus with the creaminess and the Kiko Bear at the same time? Fuck yes! I think so. Is it problematic that you talk to people this way and that you feel that you'll be able to keep sanity throughout your life? Yes, it's pretty worrisome. Are you using words that sometimes don't have any meaning or even exist, but you say it in a confident way so people think that what you're saying is true? Yeah, many times. Job interviews mostly. Should the government be looking really into your mental state and the shit that you say because you might be a liability for humanity in the future? I can't answer that for obvious reasons. Yesterday I went to a restaurant with my girlfriend where they sell like this really fire chicken. May I say, this Velveeta chicken. I mean, this chicken was Velveeta, right? And they sell mac and cheese. They dare sell mac and cheese. And I gotta say, here in Spain, it's the best mac and cheese that I've had. It was really good. I almost feel like the motherfuckers were using Velveeta. But if they're not, then they're coming to that recipe very close. It was fucking fire. Now I had this situation. I had the normal waiter, this girl, right, come and help us with everything, and it was all good. And then all of a sudden, this other guy came out to give us like the second plate and ask us if everything was fine. So given that this is a started upper, I mean, this is a successful business, but it just started and there's still, when businesses are keeping that fucking customer service, right? I hope they continue on that, because in Spain, customer service is a word that never really came about here. It was just never really discussed. They were like, customer service, fuck that, suck my dick. So I go to this place, right? So the second guy comes with our other plate. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna. This guy looks like the owner. He felt like the owner. Like when you go to a business and there's a guy that's just running around and doing shit, but he just feels like, oh, this is the owner that's also working and letting everybody know, like, no, I'm a leader that shows you the way, not a leader that's just telling you what to do, right? I'm like, I'm like, hey, bro, let me tell you something. In the mac and cheese world, I've been around. You know what I mean? Like, I know all about the Velveetas and all the things, right? Like, my aunt, I don't want to say anything, she makes the fierest mac and cheese, right? And I wanted to be nice to him. And I was like, you guys make a really good mac and cheese. Like, I've been around the mac and cheese world. And he's like, oh, yeah, thank you. He leaves and I'm just like, well, maybe he just felt like flabbergasted. I think that's a word that exists and means what I'm trying it to mean. Later come to realize when this guy is charging me, right, for the meal, that he just started working that day there. And I'm here praising him about his mac and cheese. This motherfucker doesn't even know where he lives. When I ask him if I could leave him tip on the fucking card, he's like, I don't know, I gotta ask because I just got here. So when you ask me, am I disappointed in myself that I have to go to a place and ask for a mediocre plate of mac and cheese where a motherfucker that I think is the owner is really a fucking dog-ass motherfucker that doesn't know how to serve or even appreciate my comments about the mac and cheese, and that makes me feel that I should be better in life so that I could know the fucking master recipe of the mac and cheese? Yes, I'm disappointed. Thank you for tuning in to the Broski Doodles. I fucking love you. And I really hope that you can learn how to make mac and cheese, not just for you, but for your children. Peace.